This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
In his short story, the Hajji Ahmed Essop explores the destructive impact of apartheid policies on individuals and families. This literary work shows that at the time of social upheavals, a person may either decide to go into exile or be forced into exile by others. Very often, such a decision can undermine the ethical integrity of a person. In many cases, people can become alienated or even hostile to one another. This is the main problem that should be discussed in this paper. The author examines this problem by looking at the relations of two brothers Hajji and Karim, who have long been separated from each other. Ahmed Essop succeeds in demonstrating that forced exile inevitably harms the emotional life of a person. On the one hand, he or she can be humiliated by others. This person can also become detached from his family and community. More importantly, people who are separated by the state can blame each other for betrayal. These are the main issues that are explored in this novella. Overall, Ahmed Essop's short story is worth attention because it reflects the experiences of many people who lived in South Africa at the time of apartheid and who were affected by this policy. The author attracts the reader's attention to the point that Hajji and Karim no longer maintain meaningful relations with each other. Hajji does not know much about the life of his brother, and he does not wish to see him. It should be noted that Karim was able to cross the color line. In other words, he was able to settle in the area in which only white people were allowed to live. The thing is that he had lighter skin, and he was not viewed as non-white by governmental officials. Thus, he was placed in a more advantageous position by the state. Furthermore, one can even tell that Karim chose to leave the community and family to which he belonged. To some degree, he chose to go into exile, but it is difficult to blame him for this decision because this character only tried to achieve prosperity. Such a desire is quite understandable. In his turn, Hajji believes that in this way, his brother severed his family ties. This is why he did not want to see his brother. One should also speak about Hajji and his emotional life. It should first be noted that he was forced to live in those areas where only black people were allowed to settle. The author describes the humiliation experienced by this person. In particular, the writer focuses on his encounter with white people in Hillbrow, who treat him as inferior. This is why Hajji asks the question, was there anything so vile in him that the youths found it necessary to maul that recess of self-respect within him? This example demonstrates that this person was excluded from the country in which he was born because the color of his skin was different. To some extent, it can be called a forced exile because he was not permitted to live in the privileged parts of the country. Such a requirement is a form of exile. More importantly, Hajji is keenly aware of the fact that he was denied his right to humanity. Thus, one can argue that both Hajji and Karim were forced to live in exile, and their relations were destroyed. This is the central theme explored by Ahmed Essop. Additionally, the writer describes a situation when two brothers were separated by a barrier created by the state. For Hajji, it is extremely difficult to overcome this barrier because, in his opinion, his brother betrayed him. Furthermore, Hajji believes he chose to live in a community in which black people were treated as inferior. Ahmed Essop eloquently illustrates this barrier by showing that Hajji cannot even express his compassion toward his dying brother. Hajji feels pity and regret at the same time, and this feeling is self-destructive. This is the main tragedy of this family because the main characters did not act immorally. Instead, they had to reconcile their loyalty to one's family and the need for well-being. The most important thing is that this disruption of family ties was experienced by many individuals, especially those people who were judged according to the color of their skin. Overall, Ahmed Essop emphasizes the idea that a person cannot be fully detached from his or her community and family because his life may lack meaning. This is the main reason why Karim wants to be buried in Newtown rather than Hillbrow. In the last scene of the short story, the author describes Karim's funeral, and other people mourn for him, even though he did not live with them for a very long time. One should take into account that for a long time, Karim has lived among people who did not share his religion. This character has long been separated from his roots. Unfortunately, Hajji fails to understand his brother because he is blinded by his memory of humiliation. Moreover, he feels envy for Karim because he was not victimized by the state or other people due to the color of his skin. This is the most disruptive impact of the apartheid policies. It created a wall between the brothers and made people alienated from each other. Karim decides to be buried in Newtown because this is the place where his relatives live. Yet, his brother cannot accept him. In the end, Hajji realizes that he is unjust to Karim, but it is too late for him to apologize. Again, the readers of the short story should take into account that these people were not separated by the state. In many cases, people were compelled to choose between their loyalty to their family and community and their willingness to achieve success and prosperity. At the same time, a great number of people were denied their humanity, as was the case with Hajji. As a result, the brothers failed to re-establish their relations. This is the main consequences of exile and separation that they experienced. These examples suggest that the theme of exile plays an important role in Ahmed Essop's short story. The main tragedy is that the state forced people to live in exile, even though they did not leave their own country. Ahmed Essop shows how family ties can be disrupted from the outside, and people can make decisions that they may later regret. Moreover, the author's narrative demonstrates that exile can make individuals hostile to one another, even though this hostility is not justified in any way. If you want to find more works like this essay on the theme of exile in Ahmed Essop's story The Hajji, head over to ivypanda.com. It has a collection of free samples with thousands of submissions covering virtually all academic subjects. No registration required to access it.